Hello everyone, welcome to the 200 Q&A practice. We're going to start out with defense questioning. Ready? I gather you are not having any present problems with the knee. I just remember when I was walking after the accident how much it hurt, but a few months after the accident I really wasn't concerned with anything but the pain in my arm and lower back area. To the best of your recollection, did you ever have any specific treatment for your knee injury? They looked at it at the hospital. I don't think they did anything. They didn't put a splint on it or aspirate fluid from it or anything of that sort? No. How long would you estimate it was following the accident before you were walking in a normal manner? What is your definition of normal? Whatever it was like before the accident. I would say it was 5 months before I felt as normal as I feel now. Okay, at any time after the accident were you required to use crutches or a wheelchair or a walker, anything of that nature, because of the knee? No. Were you required to use crutches, a walker, wheelchair, something similar to that for any other reason following the accident? No, I stayed in the hospital bed usually. Now you indicated your tailbone was fractured? Yes. Had you ever sustained any prior injury to your tailbone? No. How did you find out that your tailbone was fractured? I couldn't sit on it. The whole time I was at High Desert Hospital, I kept on complaining. When I went to Desert Hospital, they took x-rays of my lower back and found it. And the doctor told you it was in the tailbone? Fractured tailbone is what he told me. Okay, sacrum or coccyx, or did he indicate? I don't know. Was any specific treatment rendered for that? He just told me, to take time and rest for it to heal, and I went to an acupuncturist later on. Did you sit on a donut for a while? Yes, and an eggshell mattress thing for the bed. Did the acupuncturist render any specific treatment for your tailbone? Yes. Do you recall what that was, or can you describe it for me? A needle, quite a few needles. Did you still have substantial symptoms to your tailbone at the time that you saw the acupuncturist? It was very painful, yes. Did you get any relief from the treatment rendered by the acupuncturist? Yes, I did. Was that a permanent relief? I haven't had any problems until I sit on a hard surface for a period of time, more than an hour. My Chinese not being much of anything, I think I need help saying his name. Yes, I don't know how to pronounce it either. His first name is K-A-N-G, second name is D-S-U, last name L-I-A-O. And it is my general understanding you saw him in March of 2013 through June of 2013. Her, yes, her. Was she treating any part of your body other than the tailbone? The arm. The arm. What type of treatment did you get for your arm? She gave me some herbs because of the arm. It was so swollen and the needles. Did you receive any relief from your symptoms? The swelling in the arms went down. Did it stay down after that? Sometimes it will swell up depending on the use. Are you having any present problems with the tailbone other than the occasional discomfort with prolonged sitting that you have described? No. Now, you had a fracture of your right shoulder? Excuse me, can you tell us or tell me with your hand where the fracture was? Right in this area. You are indicating an area just below the top of the shoulder? Okay, what doctor first examined your right shoulder? Dr. Silva. He was where? High Desert. And did you at that time have a discussion with Dr. Silva as to the possible courses of treatment that you could undertake? No. Did you have a discussion with any other surgeon or physician concerning possible courses of treatment? No. Was surgery done on your shoulder at that time? No, he said he was going to put a cast on it to see if he could pull the bone back into place. Did he indicate to you what kind of a fracture you had in your right shoulder? No, he had me on morphine. I wasn't. All right, did he place a cast on your shoulder and arm? No, he placed a cast on the lower arm. On the lower arm? It was only the weight of the cast that was going to pull the pieces together. Did you wear that, carry that with a sling or straight down or what? A sling. I only had it on one night. How long was the cast on? One night. I see, all right. He called me. He released me in the afternoon. He called me that night and said it wasn't working, and he took it off the next day, and that's when he made some suggestions. I see. Then you did have a conversation with him the second day. At that time, yes. Concerning possible courses of treatment, what courses did he indicate to you were open at that time? He suggested I go to San Bernardino County Hospital they had a prosthesis that they would put in. They would take out all of the bone and insert a prosthesis at that time, but there was nerve damage, and he said that the facilities up there, they couldn't do anything, an operation like that. Did he give you any other options as to treatment? No. Did you go to San Bernardino County Hospital? No. Did you have that prosthetic surgery anyplace else? No. Did you consult with another doctor? Yes. Who did you see? Dr. Picone in Palm Springs. What did Dr. Picone say? He did I believe it is called a closed manipulative surgery on the arm, and he made the statement to see what nature would do before we put a prosthesis in. Okay, and was that done at Desert Hospital in Palm Springs? Yes. Let him finish the question. In Palm Springs? Yes. You were hospitalized at that time for what, about 2 days? Yes, because I was on Medi-Cal. They couldn't keep me any longer. When you were discharged, were you in some sort of a brace or a cast at that time? He had the arm tied to the body. All right. Are you still under Dr. Picone's care? Yes. Okay, I'm going to switch transcripts. All right. This is defense. Ready? Now, would your opinion be based solely on Mr. Johnson's statements, or would it be based on any other information? It was based on information, primarily the information I obtained from the defendant himself, with backup information from the reports that I read and descriptions of the incident made by others. After examining Mr. Johnson and reading the police reports and considering his behavior, do you have an opinion as to whether or not Mr. Johnson was capable of knowing the nature and quality of the acts that were committed on this night? I have an opinion, but I would, in giving the opinion, prefer to the state of my suppositions. Okay, if you would state your suppositions first. All right, my suppositions had to be based upon the information that the defendant gave me. The story of the feeling that the devil was after him and was chasing him, that his life was in danger, and that the lives of his wife and his daughter were in danger. This seemed to be it seemed to be substantiated by the very nature of this act, which to me seemed in and of itself a purposeless kind of thing, unless it was interpreted as a response to some sort of a delusional system. I felt that I could not judge whether he was telling the truth or not. As far as I could tell, he was telling me the truth, but I felt that was a matter of legal determination. With regards to the item of telling the truth, did you at any time see any evidence, any physical evidence, or any pictorial evidence to indicate that he was telling the truth with regard to the destruction of his residence? No, but did he describe to you destruction that was, yes he did, committed at his residence, and did that play a substantial part in your analysis? Yes, I found no reason to not believe him. And I believe you have already testified that. Were you aware of the blood alcohol level of Mr. Johnson at the time of this incident? Not at the time that I wrote the report. Last week, I was made aware of his blood alcohol level. Do you recall the blood alcohol level? I think it was 2.2 milligrams, as I recall. 2.2? 2.22. Now, assuming that what Mr. Johnson told you was true with regard to destruction of his home and with regard to his recollection of the events that took place after he left his home, do you have any opinion as to whether or not Mr. Johnson could have had the mental capacity to know the nature and the quality of his acts? Insofar as I could determine, he would not have been able to know the nature and quality of his acts. Do you have any opinion as to whether or not he would have been able to determine between right and wrong at that time? As far as I could tell, he could not. If I may approach the witness, Your Honor? Yes. Dr. Klatt, I'm showing you some photos. They are marked defendants A through I, which are photos of the exterior and interior of Mr. Johnson's home. Yes, I believe you showed these to me last week. Now, visualizing this pictorial evidence of the destruction that took place, does this alter your opinion or reinforce your opinion in any manner? It tends to reinforce it. Doctor, I wonder if you could tell us the typical length of time an acute alcoholic hallucination would take place. What is usually an acute psychotic alcoholic period of hallucinosis would last a much longer period of time than this apparently did. there is such a thing as a pathological intoxication, which produces a short-lived psychotic episode, frequently a rage kind of reaction, which I saw not uncommonly in the service. As far as the delusional system that he describes, this is rather short, much shorter than the average. I will say that. Is there any way that you can determine from the facts that you have received and the evidence that you have seen as to when this delusion commenced and when the delusion terminated? Nothing other than what he told me, that it commenced, as I recall, sometime during the day when he was drinking, and then the notation after his arrest would seem to indicate that he, some hours later, was not delusional, as far as I could tell. Is it common for people that are suffering from this hallucinosis to have moments of being lucid? They can. Is it common for them to slip in and out of this delusion? Well, once they are in a toxic psychotic state, they usually don't slip in and out of it in this type of acute episode. Occasionally, as I mentioned, in a pathological intoxication, they may snap out of it at some point, but as far as going in and out of it, I don't think I would say that's usual. Would sleep or a period of time where there is sleep help to have somebody say snap out of this delusion or this hallucinative state? It could. Are there any other factors that could help them sort of snap out? Well, sometimes it's a stress reaction. For example, in this instance, he was shot and was restrained. And I have seen in cases which, after a person was restrained, they seem to snap out of it. Okay, now, doctor, after your examination and based upon your experience, your investigation into this matter, do you have an opinion as to whether or not Mr. Johnson was capable of knowing or understanding the nature and quality of his acts with regard to shooting his rifle into a dwelling home? No, I don't. Okay, that concludes our Q&A practice for the 200 class. Have a great day.